Hello and welcome back to the Rossi Brothers Sports Podcast. My name is John, joined as always by my brother Adam. Um, Welcome back to the show, Adam, as always.
Thanks.
Um,
Good to be
but
here.
welcome also today to a guest, classmate, friend of mine, um, former soccer teammate, which is particularly of interest today, and head
Ooh.
coach of the Bishop Walsh Spartans, one Ryan Dunn. Welcome to the podcast, Ryan.
Woo.
Thank you guys. Thanks, John. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you having me. It's an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Appreciate
we're
you
excited.
bringing the soccer knowledge here.
Yeah.
Action is unstable message right there. Was that all right? Did you guys hear me?
I was gonna say you're coming in a little choppy, but I think I got you
Yeah, I
okay.
heard you. It's a little slight chop. Slight chop.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
That sounded better.
I was gonna say you sounded better now.
Okay. Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys
Cool.
having me. It's an honor if you didn't hear me the first
Yeah.
time. Uh, really looking forward to it.
Sorry, getting off on the right foot. Um, no.
Ooh. Have
Yeah,
that
no,
front foot
I was-
mentality.
yeah. It should be the right foot for me because my left foot, if you don't remember, was always terrible. But anyway, um, yeah, no, we're excited to have you, and we have you because you're one of the foremost soccer knowledgeable people that I would say we know. Um, and I've spoken to you before, seem very eager to talk about this sport. Um, and obviously, now is the time with World Cup coming up. So we're doing a World Cup preview, bringing you in for it. Woo, raise the roof, excitement. USA baby could go all the way.
USA.
Only
USA.
in
Team of the year.
the the chance that any team could go all the way. But anyway, um,
It's a beautiful part of the World Cup before it even starts. Every team
you got to play it on the
has
field. You
that
got to play it on the field.
opportunity and chance to make history.
Indeed, indeed. Um, so we've got a few different things to discuss here. I think the first thing we wanted to kind of get into, though, before we get into the nitty gritty of this particular World Cup, um, is more broadly. Um, we talked a little bit about some discussions that have been out in the ether about reducing the amount of time between holdings of the World Cup. Currently, every 4 years. Seems like FIFA wants to drop that down to every 2 years. Um, so before we get into it too much, we just wanted to kind of lead off a discussion of how do we feel about that? I don't know, Ryan, maybe I can send it to you first, see what you think.
Yeah. Well, on paper, it's the easiest way for FIFA to double their revenues, right? I mean, apparently, though, they tell us that the idea behind it is to get, you know, fans outside of Europe to experience more high quality soccer more often. Um, the best players for the best teams play in the best leagues, and they're in Europe, right? So, um, they say their view is that a World Cup happens every weekend in Europe, but it doesn't happen, everywhere else in the world. So, that's their claim, but, let's not pretend it's about us or the fans or anybody. It's all about their pockets. So, it's all about those TV deals, and sponsorships. So, um, and it doesn't just mean a couple extra games a year. It doesn't mean just, or a couple extra games every 2 years. It means a lot of extra games every year, because the qualifying cycle starts 1 year after the World Cup ends, right? So
Yeah,
for the 2026 World Cup, qualifying starts next year. Um, these players already play far too many games as it is. It's surprising that their bodies hold up as well as they do now. Um, it'd be a horrible idea. Not, and that goes without saying that it would just devalue you know the significance of it, the importance and how everybody feels about it. um, it wouldn't feel as special what we're doing right now if it was every 2 years. There wouldn't be that level of excitement. Yeah, I think it would be a horrible mistake. And last summer, whenever it was, we saw all that Super League fallout.
Yeah.
Football fans don't like to be messed with. I think if that's something that FIFA follows through on, it will be horrible for them.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. I don't know, Adam, if you had something, go ahead.
Are you in agreement, John? You should. I think you should go.
Largely, I was gonna say, yeah, I largely, fully agree. There's kind of a couple things. So my like initial thought is I don't want to dismiss something out of hand for just like a traditional reason. Like if your approach to it is, well, they've always done it every 4 years, so I don't want to switch it because that's how it's always been done. I'm kind of like, well, I don't think that's that much of like an argument. Um, but a couple of things that I particularly bristle at. The first one, exactly like you said, it seems like this is a very obvious just cash grab for FIFA, which is not a very likable organization to begin with. And then, yeah, the other thing that you're mentioning is that there's already a good amount of international soccer that is played in the intervening time between World Cups. And like, frankly, I think it might just be, increasing the access that people have to be able to watch, or maybe just, as people care more, watching more of, be it World Cup qualifiers or other like continental competitions. Like I feel like, and maybe it's just a thing here also because in the US it's broadcast on ESPN, the Euro Cup. But right, you have like the Copa America, and some of these other like large international. I guess the Gold Cup isn't quite as like high level
I
necessarily.
was gonna say, why didn't you mention the Gold Cup?
But I mean, it's still some competition there. USA baby. But like, if we, for example, I don't know where I would watch the Gold Cup. Like that's part of it is like, oh, if we just had more access in some ways, I think, to some of these other international competitions, that would sort of fulfill the same, right, the sort of argument that FIFA makes that if you take it at face value, might be worthwhile. Like, oh, it's, increasing the ability for, players and, sorry, not players, like fans of various countries to like watch their international teams play. You can fulfill that without, doubling the World Cup. And there also, I think, similarly to Olympics, are sometimes some like questionable decisions put into place of like how any country prepares for hosting a World Cup or something like that. Which you don't need to get into too much if we don't want to, but I would have concerns of, we're just gonna like, oh, double the amount of, we're gonna do this and have XYZ different countries scrambling to build these big stadiums to host all this stuff, which has been problematic in the past, I think. So that's another thing that I would worry. And again, all for the purpose of ultimately just like paying FIFA more money. Yeah, so that I'm not super into. Yeah, so generally fully agree. Yeah, it's kind of my read on it. I don't know.
And it's nothing new, right? I mean, we have Major League Baseball in my time, expanded playoffs, NFL football in my lifetime, expanded playoffs and season. NHL, NBA couldn't afford to expand the playoffs in my lifetime because they're already too big. But we just see over and over and over, it's all about making more money, having more TV time, having bigger TV contracts. That's just the way of the thing. So yeah, I think you guys hit the nail on the head, and I don't have a whole lot to add. I guess honestly, is like a fan, from a fan standpoint, and I will qualify this as an extremely casual fan. I think it does, to me as a fan, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference, honestly, whether you play 2 or 4 years. I get from a player perspective that this is, I really hear what you said, Coach Dunn, about the wear and tear on the bodies, and that's something I know that was coming up in NFL discussions about, playing an extra regular season game, which I hear that when it comes to international competition. From a fan, I guess to me, it's like it's a 1 month tournament, right? And from as someone who pays attention to the World Cup, but not so much to like Gold Cup, Euro Cup, etc. It's kind of like, well, even if it happened every 2 years, I still think it would be something that I would pay attention to and something that I would get excited about. Kind of like, I mean, they moved the Winter Olympics to offset with the Summer Olympics. Now it's like every 2 years you get an Olympics. Yeah, to me as a fan, I don't think it makes the biggest difference, but yeah, I'm with you on the whole kind of rotten smell, the old cash grab, yet another cash grab in the sports world. And yeah, I appreciate what you said about the players' bodies and ultimately their livelihoods.
I was gonna say maybe this is something you can also clarify, because I, in the like professional soccer realm, have always been slightly unclear on like when it's not the season.
Hmm.
Because between, right, like club season and then it seems like whenever it's not club season, there are international competitions going on.
Yeah.
Is there like, I couldn't tell you when the off season is essentially. So maybe
Sure.
this is something you can clarify.
No, I mean it's a super long season. It's August through May. So how many months is that? And then they have June, July off. They have 2 months off. It's an extremely long season. Like, yeah, longer than most. Yeah. So
Yeah.
to slip in a tournament, it would just be tough. And not only that, it would change the entire international soccer calendar, right? That would throw the Euros off. It would throw the Copa America off. So a lot of things to take into account like that too. Um, and John, I think you, not to change the subject, but
Mhm.
the past 3 World Cups, if we count this one, there have been major um issues with the way they treat the human beings.
Yeah.
Um, Brazil didn't have the infrastructure for it. Russia, you know, and here we are in Qatar. Um, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
These countries weren't ready for it, and it's by any means necessary, right? Get these stadiums built by any means necessary, and that's what they're doing, and people are dying. So, um, yeah, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
100%. That's like, I was gonna say, outside of like a sports context and in more just like a generally talking about things context, I think that's kind
Yeah,
of the number one issue with it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's
not
it's
not kind of,
almost
definitely the number one issue, obviously.
like,
Um,
will we see more of that? I guess that's
yeah.
the thing. Which we're in 2022, and the past 3 World Cups have been in situations that were, the countries weren't ready. I don't know exactly about Brazil, but I remember reading the same things, to a lesser degree that we're hearing about in Qatar. But
Yeah.
yeah, like workers dying, they're clearly um, either they need more investment from FIFA, or it needs to they need to look elsewhere. Um, but yeah.
And maybe to that point, like, how many countries are going to be ready? How many countries can we expect to be ready, especially if you do a tournament every 2 years? I don't know what FIFA's requirements are in terms of infrastructure, but I mean, like, I think of soccer in Brazil as being pretty synonymous. Like, if Brazil can't get ready for World Cup, who the heck is going to be able to get ready according to, I don't know, whatever standards that FIFA or whoever is setting? Um, yeah, and the I think, to answer my own question, the ones who are going to be ready are the first world countries, to use an antiquated term. It's going to be the few at the top. It's going to be the U.S. It's going to be the U.K. It's going to be a few others, Japan maybe. But do we want to have the World Cup every year in a country that is like the haves, and never bring that to like entire continents? Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the, Occam's razor most likely outcome if you double the pace of that, even if you give, X number of years, right? Because they decide at least 4 to 8 years in advance,
Mm.
where any World Cup is going to be. Even with that time in advance, if you're going to place it in, a country with, any level of, you're right, where it doesn't already have that infrastructure in place. And like you're saying, the exact mentality is, hey, we're going to do whatever necessary, which usually directly involves human rights violations. That's, yeah, not something we can get behind, I don't think. So I feel like I'm speaking not strongly enough on this, because it's kind of obvious. I'm just used to like catching my language, but yeah, very bad. um, so
Very,
anyway,
very bad. It's appropriate
yeah,
description.
let it go on record as the Rossi Brothers Sports Podcast is against human rights violations.
I
Yeah,
like that. Okay, strong start. Strong start to the World Cup preview. I'm feeling pretty happy.
indeed. Although I would like to, maybe as like a last add-on to that, I think it would be cool to see more um, countries that aren't like, like you're saying, the US or like Germany or something, hosting the World Cup in the future, um, as long as you can implement it and set it up in a better way, essentially.
Hmm.
Like I think that would be cool, and like play into the whole, right, it's an international competition thing. um and you know as people often mention, it's like no country outside of Europe or South America has ever won it. um but also, not that many countries outside of, you know what is historically considered like the first world have even hosted it. um
Mm.
and right, so like upping that more, I think, would also be cool to be able to play and have it be hosted in a wider variety of places.
Yeah. So probably the only difference is like investment by FIFA. I guess they're not getting enough, these host countries, or they're not using them in the right way. I'm not sure exactly, but it is like a bid to win it. So maybe the country is paying for it themselves. I don't really know.
yeah.
As an extremely casual soccer fan, especially international soccer, like my just impression is like FIFA and corruption go like hand in hand. That's just my impression
Yeah.
of FIFA. Like it doesn't surprise me to hear like, oh, FIFA's not giving these countries enough money. Like, yep, checks out from what I've heard.
Yeah, I gotta watch that Netflix thing that just came out on FIFA. There, I think it's like a four-part documentary on the corruption and stuff there over the past few years.
Oh dang.
Well,
Yeah.
I also got to check that out. Yeah. I don't know.
exciting.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that was a fun, healthy discussion. I think to start things off. Uh, what about what say you we talk some kits?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Woo!
Yeah. So okay. So focusing in now from this point on, focusing in on World Cup 2022, um, in Qatar or Qatar, depending on how people prefer to say it. Um, I feel
This
like
is
I was.
Eversole. I was in
Uh-huh.
fourth grade. Mrs. Eversole told me it's Cutter, and ever since then I've pronounced it like that.
I was gonna say, I feel like someone in like middle or high school told me it was Cutter, and I've always said it that way. Um, but we're
My
we're
impression
agno- we're
is,
agnostic on the pronunciation here on the rest of this podcast.
yeah, I think I'm in the minority. Like you,
Okay.
I feel like I've said before, like Cutter, and people like, you mean Qatar?
It
And
doesn't matter which I say, that's the reaction I get. It's the opposite, no matter what I say,
Yeah.
every time.
Heads I win, tails you lose. Yeah.
Yes.
mm,
Yeah. Exactly.
classic
Um,
scenario. Well,
yeah.
whatever name of QATAR, whatever the pronunciation may be. Yeah, let's focus on the QATAR 2022 World Cup. And let's first focus on those kits. And for those of you who don't speak football, that is to say what other sports might call uniforms. Great. Let's do it. John, you lead us off.
I'll lead us off. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so typically in the past when we have looked into uniforms and or kits, we'll usually pick something from the good and something from the bad. So I've done that, and I will like start off by saying, and we may have mentioned this when we've talked about the kits previously, Adam. Most of these have what I would call like a sub pattern, where most of these you have sort of your general, like coloration pattern on the jersey, which when you're watching on TV or from the stands looks like a solid color, fairly straightforward. But then probably like 28 out of 32 of these have like these sort of sub or like different shades of the same color with these like patterns on them. So when you see pictures of them close up, you can see like, oh, there's all this extra stuff happening essentially. More often than not, I don't like this sort of close-up look of that, to be completely honest. I think some of them can sometimes be cool like patterns. A lot of the time it mostly just throws me off though, which is what it is, I guess. And given that most of them are like this, I'm not going to hold it against any particular country in particular. How many times can I say particular? That being said, the one I'm going to highlight is definitely Morocco. So just kind of scrolling through a whole like list of the kits here, there's really stand out to me as kind of like a better version of what I usually see Portugal. I feel like I really like the red and green kind of combo, which I usually associate with Portugal on like an international scale, but I think Portugal tends to, at least recently, try to like do way too much, all these like extra. Morocco, on the other hand, I think kind of boils it down to a little more digestible and like a very, in my eyes, classic looking kind of kit here. Right, so particularly their red, right? You got the red jersey, the green shorts, and the red socks. I just think it looks really clean, using the color combo. They don't have much of that like sub patterning which I really like also. I like the kind of horizontal like stripe situation across the middle. Yeah, even with it not like going all the way around, where it's more so just kind of like two blocks. I don't know, it just works for me. I like generally as like a vibe that sort of either like horizontal or like kind of a chevron situation. I'm usually into that. And this kind of scratches that itch for me. This kind of checks that box. Yeah, so that's sort of what I went with here. The numbers could be improved a little bit, I think. I don't know how I feel about the like, there's a little bit of roundedness to it that I don't like. But I think that's kind of minor to me compared to the combination of the overall look of it with the sort of minimization of that kind of subtle pattern stuff happening. Yeah, so that's what I feel there. Their white kits also, I think, look good. They still keep it kind of simple. They have the red and the green on the accent.
Mm-hmm.
I particularly like the double kind of stripe around the sleeves and around the neck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, still keeping it like, pretty like classy and stylish while, having enough of that color where it, stands out and you can tell, right? It fits the same sort of theme well, I think.
For sure. Man, you
Yeah.
mentioned that double stripe on the white kits. On the red ones, I feel like there's a little missed opportunity there because it's just the green straight on the red, like the stripe on the sleeves and the collar is green. I feel like that could be next level if they incorporate the white in there. And then you could even get triple stripe there. You could go white, green, red as you're working your way from the shoulder down the sleeve on that stripe pattern. But yeah, overall, I really like these. I particularly like the shade of the red and the green. Neither are super deep, neither super overpowering. They're like, but they're not overly light either. Like kind of a good, I don't know, medium heaviness hue. I don't know how you say that, but
Mhm.
it's yeah, to me very pleasing to the eye. Yeah, solid choice.
Yeah. Okay. Should I do my, you know,
Oh,
my
oh,
bad as well, or do you want to do your
you,
guys' good and
you
then
know.
go and do all the bads around?
Um, yeah, let's do all the goods and all the bads.
Okay.
Great. I can go.
Cool. You all right? Yeah, go for it.
Great. So honestly, this was a pretty easy choice for me. There are some good uniforms here, but there's one to me that particularly stands out as like, this is the one. And the one, of course, is Senegal. And yeah,
I
favorite
had a feeling
uniform of
this
the
is where you
World
were going to
Cup.
go with this.
Yeah. Oh wow. You know me well. I really so I'm looking at the white kits. And again, first and foremost, I kind of said the same thing about the Morocco jerseys, that the color scheme and the shade of the colors. I really enjoy the shade of green that Senegal has is maybe my favorite shade of green on a uniform, particularly when paired with the white. The green on the white is just a really, really clean look. Really love it. And then you add in the yellow and red colors from the flag, and you just get to boom, the next level. Yeah, I just really love that green, red, yellow look on the white. I mean, it really pops on these uniforms, I think.
Mhm.
And the design I enjoy. This is just a straight up chevron on the front
Yeah, I can get behind a
of the
chevron.
white kit. And yeah, it's I think it looks pretty classic. I think it looks pretty clean.
Mhm.
Um, I, I agree with you about the font of the numbers. I don't mind them that much. They look soccerish, I'd say. I think it's a good
Mhm.
classic soccer font. It doesn't take away, I don't think, from these uniforms. I found pictures of these uniforms being worn with both green and white socks. So it's white jersey, white shorts, green socks or white socks. I like the green socks better, kind of breaking up the white. Um, but I also enjoy the all white look. The stripes. So there's they do the triple stripe on these. It's the green, yellow, red around the
Yeah.
collar, around the sleeve, and then on the socks they have a double stripe. So the green socks and the white socks both have a yellow and red, so double stripe on the socks. But man, all that striping is beautiful. Yeah, I just think they're really, really, really clean, classic looking jerseys. I will say the green kits they have definitely not as good as the white ones. They're still great. And again, that shade, the color palette is really what sets them apart.
Yeah.
But they're not as good as the white ones. The big thing here, I think, is the the running bib question mark thing in the middle.
Yeah.
That as a design is odd, and I don't think it works very well. And as I was scrolling through different uniforms, they're not the only ones. Puma, interesting enough, it's Puma designed Morocco's, and they didn't do this with Morocco's, but with a lot of the Puma kits, they have this weird, yeah, it looks like a running bib design in the middle. Don't like it. I especially don't like the top of the bib. They have that red part, and they have like
Mhm.
three little logos in there. They have the flag, and then like I don't know if it's the football team's logo, and then like the nickname of the squad, and it just looks very busy and not clean, I would say, in there. So I
Yeah.
don't like the design as much, but still overall, I like just at a glance to look at these kits. I also question why. So they do a great stripe pattern on the green kits around the collar, but then they don't repeat it on the sleeve, which is just a question mark to me. Like, why wouldn't you? It seems like a pretty obvious repeated pattern there. So, but yeah, Senegal to me, easily best kits this World Cup. What you got, Ryan?
Yeah, I had that. So you hit the nail on the head with that one, Adam. That was also my 1-1. But yeah, I gotta name a couple, to be honest. My favorite
Okay.
though, I'm a classic guy, traditionalist. I love, always have loved Croatia's red and white checkerboard.
Mhm.
I think that's a little thing in their flag, if I'm not mistaken. But um, yeah, you can set your clock to that the Croatia's national team kit is going to be checkerboard like that. Always loved it, always will. I think it looks clean with the white shorts and the white socks. Um, I like the base color to be the same throughout the body. So yeah,
I do
big
have to ask you
fan of
this.
Croatia. Yeah.
I agree with you. I love the kit, but this year, the checkerboard pattern for the white kits this year, it has, in my mind, an awkward amount of white on the top. So like there's little white around the number, but then like right on like the chest, there's like this huge white splotch, which means
Yeah.
like, why don't you put more checkerboard in there? Like I don't get the interruption. Uh,
I'm gonna blame Nike on that one. I think they really dropped the ball this year.
Yeah, blame
Puma as
Nike.
well. I'm just not a fan, like overall, of the Nike or Puma kits this year. But
hmm,
yeah, I still love the Croatia one too much to not pick.
cool,
Um,
cool.
yeah, I agree
100%.
with that though. That's very strange. And it even looks like on like the left side of the abdomen, there's a little bit of white space as well that I don't know what that's
Yeah.
about. But yeah, so the next one I gotta give a shout to is Japan's home jerseys. Apparently it's like an homage to origami,
Hmm.
which they I guess is a big part of the culture. You can kind of see it, it's got sort of shades of white on the blue base. Very simple Adidas kit. You got the three stripes on the shoulders. Nice strong crest there. Big fan of that one as well.
Yeah.
And the third
Yeah, I
one,
feel
the
that. I
third
feel
one
that.
I gotta give a shout to is the Denmark home and aways. Did you guys read anything about this one?
I haven't, no.
I
Um,
haven't either.
so I'm gonna read the quote from the Hummel guys. But the crest and um, the brand label, it's all the same color as the actual jersey, right?
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
this was a statement, by the brand and by the country to make their feelings known about the World Cup in this country. Um, at Hummel, we believe that sports should bring people together, and when it doesn't, we are eager to speak up and make a statement. That's why the new Denmark jerseys for the upcoming World Cup have been designed as a protest against Qatar and its human rights records. We don't wish to be visible during a tournament that has cost thousands of people their lives. So, I wanted to shout that one out. That's a ballsy move by a company when, just getting your logo seen there is probably worth millions. Um, you know, that's a good move from them. They're gonna get publicity from that move.
But
Anyway.
they also, I thought I saw Denmark had like warm up jerseys that they were gonna wear that like FIFA vetoed,
Mm,
um, in a
Hmm.
similar vein. That said something. It was just like human rights for all or whatever, um,
Hmm.
which on its face seems like it should be an acceptable statement, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
gets politicized, I guess. But yeah, okay. Yeah, no,
So yeah, I
100%.
mean, it's the home's a full red and the away is full black. So you know, that's a statement, I guess.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I appreciate you bringing that up. I didn't notice that at all.
Yeah,
I just
totally.
scrolled right through them. Good job, Denmark. They moved up in my book
Yeah.
because of that.
The Danes.
Not that they were low to begin with, but
Yeah. If we're also, as you say, if I could call out one like secondary that I like as well that didn't make my top selection, I'm also pretty into Serbia's. I like the like subtle kind of gold accent on the red in particular. They have a similar box situation happening with their white, which I don't like at all. Like Senegal's has, and like a lot of these have. Like I'm not into that. Um, but their red kits I do, right, very simple, but I do like the gold accent. And I think it just kind of pops just that like a little bit, which I'm pretty into. But anyway, just a little smaller shout out.
I agree. There's a
Before,
queen, the V-neck and the gold. Yeah, that's all I
yeah,
had to say.
yeah. As I said, before we get into the more negative shout outs, so it's a little, okay, maybe as you say, I don't know if we're just gonna go in the same order. I assume we are, so I'm just gonna go
yeah, do
ahead.
it.
It's a little difficult to decide which ones I wanted to say to bring up as my bad as far as uniforms go. And I will give some shout out to South Korea, with a very like 90s kind of, in my mind. Okay. So it reminds me of the pattern on like, Tasty Freeze, like ice cream cups, um, which I think kind of looks cool depending on like how you wear it. And I think it doesn't look as bad as it could look, honestly. Is this their like away kits in particular? I think it's their away. No, it's their home. No, yeah, it's the away, the dark ones. Um, anyway, it's not super into it. But I think I'm actually gonna go with Germany. Mostly because I feel like Germany usually has very good looking uniforms. And like you mentioned with Japan's uniforms, Ryan, they have Adidas. They usually have, right, the three stripe situation, um, which I always think works well. I usually like at least that portion of Adidas's uniforms, if not a lot of the other portions of them. Um, but I think this is like a step down from most of what they usually do. Um, it's just kind of like off-putting to me. Right, they're home with the like one big vertical stripe in the middle that's kind of a little extra wide for what, like, for example, if you looked at like, Senegal's away uniform or Morocco's home, they have like a similar like stripe down the middle, but it's a lot like smaller. And so it's kind of like one dominant color and then that like, one stripe color. In this case, you have like this very dark gray, maybe black. It's a little hard to tell exactly. Like wide stripe with all of the like numbers and pretty much everything going down the middle of that. And then you have the white on the outside. The stripes on the shoulders don't go all the way down. It doesn't really incorporate any of like the red. I feel like usually there will be like a small amount of red also in past years on Germany's like home uniforms, which I like, the look of having a little bit of that color in there. I mean, obviously, I think the white and black is usually their kind of dominant color scheme. Um, I don't know. It just feels really like imbalanced to me. Um, yeah, and then their road, I just really don't like the sort of patterning of this kind of like, I would call it like airbrushed sort of, different shades of red situation happening. Um, Maybe if it had more color going on, would also be a similar like Tasty Freeze cup situation. But since it's just like colors of red, it doesn't quite evoke that so much. But I think both of these are like misses that are not, such egregious misses that I'm like, I can't look at either of these. But I think given what, at least in my mind, is like Germany's usual track record, these are both kind of steps down for me of what I would usually expect to be like a good, solid, country with good, solid kits. So I'm going to call them out here. Sorry, Germany. Sorry, Marius, but not into it.
Couldn't agree more. Honestly, the dark jersey is getting to the point that I can't look at it. Like that red airbrush stuff. I mean, it's like bad color. I mean, talk about good color schemes for Morocco and Senegal. Like this is awful shade. I mean, red, black, and gold. It's like not hard to have pleasing shades of those colors. And this to me is a very unpleasing shade. Well, wow, yeah, good call there, John. I went with our friends, another kind of mainstay of classic World Cup power, if you will, and that's Argentina. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, that is Argentina. And this is purely
Thanks.
because...
I didn't catch that one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, learn something every day.
Yeah.
I can still teach something out every now and then. And yeah, this is purely because of their dark blue uniforms. They're because I'm scrolling through here and their one kit looks super classic, great. Man, first World Cup in a long time without Diego Maradona, RIP. But anyway, looking at these classic Argentina, you got the like baby blue, powder blue, and white stripe pattern going on. Love it. I actually really like what these do with these. Love the Adidas, the black stripes down the sleeve. Again, I question why do they stop like halfway down the sleeve? But love the black accent on the side and the end of the stripe on the end of the sleeve. I think they're super, super clean looking. But then we have these other kits for the Argentina side with they look really, really bad. They have this like flame thing going on, which is like multiple, kind of the airbrush thing. It's like multiple different shades of blue. I can't tell how many. Is it more or less than like 20? And at the same time, it's like all these shades of blue are within like, I don't know, a very small segment of the old color spectrum. And then you have these like, the jersey by itself is atrocious. Yeah, the flames just look awful. They kind of remind me, it's almost like a gradient feel, almost reminds me of the Arizona Diamondbacks uniforms have that gradient pattern on them. I feel like flames on uniforms usually don't end well. I don't know if you saw the Tampa Bay Lightning had these like the NHL is doing these like faux back retro reverse uniforms, and theirs had like orange like flames. Maybe it's orange lightning. That makes more sense. On the sleeves, it's just like not the same as the rest of the uniforms. Like, what is going on here? But yeah, these just look.
I have not seen this.
You should look them up. They're interesting. I like the jerseys without, except it wasn't for the sleeves. But this is not about hockey. It's about football. So the jerseys themselves are just horrible. But then if you're gonna do the gradient thing, I would say at least if you're gonna like commit to it and add it to the shorts. But the shorts somehow make it look worse because the shorts are just like one shade of blue. And it's just like this block of blue, and it almost looks like the jerseys are like not okay. So when we were in high school, sometimes we'd play like scrimmages against teams that you could tell their athletic department didn't have the budget the other athletic departments had, because they'd be wearing like multiple different versions of their uniforms. They have like one from 1997, one from 2006, one from 2010. And that's like almost what this looks like. It looks like, oh, like some of the kids have jerseys from one set of uniforms, but shorts from another. Yeah, it's just a total whiff, in my opinion, on these dark Argentina uniforms.
Yeah. I will say just a quick note on the like airbrushy thing. I think part of it is that it looks digital. I think there's a way in which this and like the Germany and some of these other ones, there's a like it looks like a digitized like gradient kind of
Mhm.
situation,
Mhm.
which I think is eye catching in the wrong way in this sort of like context. Um, like I think there's a difference between like a color gradient that you get with because you have like some liquid that goes part way and it like diffuses that way versus a
Mhm.
gradient that you get if you're like digitally like going halfway between one color and another.
Mhm.
um like I don't know exactly what the right thing to call that would be, but I feel like that's what I'm seeing with these sorts of things,
Mhm.
along with just the way that it mixes is not looking great. But I think that's part of why. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Ryan. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Gradients weren't meant to be
Um,
digital.
so yeah, I mean, like
Really
I
fun.
said earlier, I think Nike overall and Puma are just horrendous. Huge letdown from especially Nike. Like I expected from Puma, to be honest. I expect a lot better from Nike. I'm so disappointed. But I'm not gonna pick a Nike one. I'm gonna pick actually Iran. I think that
Mm.
yeah, it just looks like an old kit, like you were saying, and it reminds me of like a one that we'd be stuck with in high school. Um, Not much creativity going on. There's just that single swipe across the crest, and the home and away are identical basically with the the colors being different, but they're the same exact design. Um, yeah, extremely underwhelmed by Iran's jerseys home and away.
It's kind of getting into the nasty gradient again too, because that stripe kind of gradients his way into existence. And
Mm,
then it kind of has an abrupt end, like right at the sleeve, which also kind of bothers me a little bit. Yeah, it's super, and it's an abrupt gradient too, though. It's like kind of like a Beach Boys fade out, like it's very quick, and you have this like halfway commit to the gradient there, but then like whoa, now we have like full color. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Also got the
it's really
mismatched shoulder situation going on to like complement the gradient,
uh,
complement in that it like matches it, not in that it looks good. Um, yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a great like very simple way of doing something bad,
mm,
compared to a much more like um, I don't know what the term. I don't know if flamboyant would be the right term, but like a very like in your face way of looking ugly.
mm-hmm,
yeah.
Um, like like you're saying, there's not much to this jersey. It's not very creative. Um, but what does go into it doesn't work.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, no, I feel that for sure. It's also yeah.
It seems like yeah, at least the other ones like the yeah, like Argentina and Germany, it's like, wow, someone really took their time to make a bad jersey, but like it seems like they put some thought into this. This looks like you gave some like third grader like some colored pencils and they're like, hey, design a uniform. And they like didn't really want to do the assignment. They're like, okay, whatever, just like do something in 3 seconds and there it is. And that's like kind of what this looks like. It's like
This is
not a
just
whole lot
leftover
there.
stock, yeah, laying
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
somewhere in the Iran's football federation. They just had them left over.
The lightness, the last other thing, the lightness of the green in the middle of the stripe
Mm,
is like almost to a point where it's getting a little like it's very light,
hmm
compared to again going back to Senegal's. They have kind of like a deep enough green where it stands very well.
hmm
The green shade in and of itself is an appealing color.
hmm
The primary, what stands out to me as the primary shade of green in this is that kind of light one in the middle, which I don't think stands well on its own, like as a color. Like I think
Yeah.
the darker shades closer to the edge of the like stripe are better shades of green and are not the ones that are highlighted in these
hmm
uniforms.
It especially looks bad in the red jersey because the light
Mm.
green in the middle is so bright or so light that yeah, it's kind of your eye goes there immediately, and that's not really where I want my eye to go. And I'm looking at these jerseys, like not in a good way. But then to the outside, you have that like kind of green to red gradient a little bit, which is not pleasing to the eye.
Yeah. Opposite ends of the color wheel, man.
Yeah. Wow. Well, there it is. Some styling and profiling, or not, at the 2022 World Cup.
Indeed. Indeed. Good
Well,
picks all around, y'all. Good picks
who's
all
going to
around.
be wearing these uniforms? Shall we ask?
The players, perhaps?
Okay.
They should have okay. I think side note, I think they should have managers do like managers in Major League Baseball do and wear the kits as well on the sideline. I think I'd like to see that. It's been, you know, of all those sports, I think soccer is one in particular where usually you'll have like the suits on the sideline. I'd like to see some of the older managers bust out the uniform look. Anyway,
I honestly think that's intriguing for like all the sports that I can think of in which coaches don't wear the uniform of the team. Like, can you imagine football coaches like putting on shoulder pads and a helmet to coach? Like, that would be entertaining in the same way that like NHL guys that have to wear like skates and a helmet and shoulder pads. And then I also like the idea of NBA coaches, having to wear shorts and the jersey on the sideline. I think it's a win-win across all sports.
yeah.
So yeah, something to look forward to that will
Okay.
never happen. But in
Anyway,
terms
sorry
of
to throw off your segue completely.
no, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I was somewhat proud of that segue, but can I segue it back? Because those
Hey.
NBA coaches, some of them were one-time players, and we were talking about players. That's a perfect segue right there. But yeah. In this case, football players. In this case, the football players in the upcoming World Cup. Who are we watching? Who are we looking out for? Who are eyes going to be trained upon in this World Cup? Ryan, I think you should start us off as the football coach here.
Yeah. Well, this is obviously going to be Messi and Ronaldo's last dance, right? Messi is in the best form since he's made that move, since he left Barcelona. He already scored more goals in the league than he did all of last year. Which isn't much. He only has 7 right now, I think, but he didn't have many last year. Messi's got a much better team around him than he did in the previous 2 World Cups. I think he's going to have a very good tournament. I think Harry Kane is going to win the Golden Boot again. He won it at the 2018 World Cup with 6 goals. I think he's going to do the same thing again because I think England's going to go deep, and he does everything well, but most of all, he's a finisher. And yeah, I think he's going to be the biggest thing on defenders' minds early in the World Cup. I'll let you guys go ahead before I keep naming guys.
All right, Adam, you want to go next?
Okay, great. Yeah, sure. And I have to say, like, qualifier. I'm a very casual football fan, so I had to look these up. But yeah, it's a few names that seem to be like, okay, this is interesting here. It seems like France has some ballers, as I'm sure they say
They do say that.
in international soccer, right? And I'm not French, so I don't really know how to pronounce these, but Kylian Mbappe, or maybe Mbappe, from France, a 23-year-old. He seems like he just scores, and he has incredible ball control, incredible skills. And the defending champs, we saw these guys 4 years ago. The other guy that I'm mentioning there when I say guys would be Karim Benzema, from France. Now he's 34, which is like, whoa, That's getting, a little up there in terms of the soccer world. He's the oldest winner of the Ballon d'Or, which is pretty cool, which he just won this year. But yeah, it seems like those guys, and I mean, they have a whole squad of ballers. France is going to be tough to knock out. But seems like those two are two that stand out. Reading about Belgium, ranked super high. They're number 2 FIFA world rank right now. Like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. Hashtag casual soccer fan. But it seems like they have this guy, Kevin De Bruyne. He reading about him, he just seemed like kind of the Mike Trout of soccer. It's kind of an all around dude. Can do it all, well-rounded player. And another guy that jumped out was reading about things is Son Heung-min. Again, not sure about that pronunciation, but from South Korea, Son Heung-min scored 23 goals in the Premier League, won the Golden Boot in the Premier League. Super speedster, apparently. Seems cool that I don't in my stereotypes, I guess I don't really associate like World Cup soccer often with like Asia and Asian countries. Cool to see a Korean player playing at an extremely high level in the Premier League, and yeah, excited to see him play in the World Cup. So those are the 4 guys that stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
What you got, Jan?
Yeah, totally. I actually I had De Bruyne on my list too.
Bruyne.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, we got to represent our fellow Gingers.
Yeah.
But no, he's like, I think one part of that too is that I feel like in the past, Belgium has kind of gone as he has gone. Like he's sort of a very critical player in a team that has kind of, I don't know if it's fair to say that they've underperformed. Like they're sort of in a golden generation, but they haven't won any of the international tournaments they've been a part of. And they've gotten a bit like older now. They're obviously still like one of the top threats in this tournament. But I kind of feel like in their results, because I think I don't remember some of the anyway, I do feel like they've kind of gone a lot depending on whether De Bruyne is healthy and playing well for them, has been like such a key for them. And obviously he's an amazing, just like I think distributor of the ball, really. Like one of the more creative players out there, which is always really fun to watch. Speaking of creativity, and not something I was mentioning with De Bruyne, but also just like insane longevity. Luka Modric is like probably one of the best players to watch out there. Again, super like creative, amazing like distributor of the ball. I think when I think of like people will refer to soccer as the beautiful game, he kind of pops into my mind as like one of the top people that really embodies that. I don't know, some of what he does. I remember, was it against Denmark? He scored the goal with like the outside of his foot. Was it against England? I don't know. There was one goal, I think, in the last World Cup that was like one of the prettiest ones I've seen in a while. Anyway, and he's like, I think the Croatian team has a bit fewer pieces around him than they did making their World Cup run in 2018. So, it's probably going to be a bit more like weight and pressure on him, which I'm not sure if that's as much a recipe for success for them. But it is a recipe to see Luka Modric do some amazing stuff. So definitely a player in my mind to like watch. And I'll say my one other, and then I'm sure you probably have a few more names, Ryan. But this is one that I, as a similarly like casual observer, would not know as much. But I think most people who follow club level soccer, Vinicius Jr. Seems to be like one of the big kind of up and coming stars for Brazil. Really kind of burst onto the scene, I guess, in the past year with Real Madrid. scored the winning goal in the Champions League final in May, which is obviously a big deal. He's also like 22, 21. Yeah, so he I think is probably like one of the biggest candidates to really if you're coming into the World Cup not really having watched much soccer since the last World Cup, probably one of the names that you aren't going to recognize that you will definitely recognize on the other end of this World Cup. Yeah, so I'm definitely putting him out there as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very good pick. He's really set the world on fire these past couple seasons with Real Madrid. Yeah, one other guy, or maybe a couple other guys I'll highlight. I think a guy named Joshua Kimmich is probably Germany's best player. He'll most likely play center mid, which is, midfield is certainly going to be one of the strengths of the German national team. I think they've got less of an out and out, like proven number 9 striker than they have in the years past. Robert Mueller getting older. They do have a couple of younger guys that they brought up, but I would expect sort of a false. I don't know who is going to play number 9 for them, but Joshua Kimmich playing center midfielder is going to be very strong for them. And out wide, they're going to have pace on either wing. They've got Bayern players, Leroy Sané and Serge Gnabry. Yeah, I think Germany is going to be, good again this year. So I don't want to talk about Christian Pulisic because I think, like, as an American fan, I know what to expect from him. I know he's excellent, but for like maybe some other people to keep an eye on for the US team, I expect Gio Reyna to have a very, very good tournament. I expect Brendan Aronson to have a very good tournament. Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams are 2 Americans that just got moves to Leeds United in the summer to play for an American head coach for Leeds United. Leeds United States of America. They're, that's what they're calling them now. I love these 2 guys though. Brendan Aronson is going to play a real role. He might not start, but he can play multiple positions. He can play center mid. He can play either wing. Same with Gio Reyna. He can play center mid. He can play either wing. He can even play striker. So these are 2 very, very exciting young players for the United States. And yeah, Weston McKennie might be our best player. He plays for Juventus in Italy. While they're not having the best season, it certainly doesn't come down to him. He's a very, very reliable center midfielder, so physical, just excellent player. Like he's gonna be probably the player that makes it all happen for us. So yeah, keep an eye on those 3 to 4 guys for the US. If you can take your eye off Christian Pulisic.
Boom.
Totally, yeah. I was gonna say Reyna is one of the guys too that I like. I haven't followed the national team that much. But like one thing I was like, oh, he plays for Dortmund. I'm like, dude. And then, reading a little bit more about him, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's definitely seems like one of the main guys to pay attention to.
Yeah. Just pray that he stays healthy. He's fragile boy. Yeah.
It seems like a lot for the US might ride on health.
Yeah.
Well, now I know who to look for on my own side. Thanks, Coach Dunn. And if the United States were to make a run, would we consider them a so-called dark horse, as they say? Or are there some other dark horses or definition you want to throw out there of dark horses when we look at who's going to actually emerge from this tournament as victors?
Yeah, I think that the US would certainly be considered a dark horse. I think that's another good side that I don't like. Group G is going to be very difficult, but between Switzerland and Serbia, whoever advances along with Brazil between Switzerland and Serbia, I think either one of those teams could do well.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Serbia has good players all over the field. Switzerland, they've got a very good defense, very good midfield. I would just worry about them scoring goals, but lot of experience in both of these teams, players all over the top 5 leagues in Europe. Yeah, I would consider them dark horses. And I want to even give a shout to Uruguay. If they could be considered a dark horse. I mean, they're a very small country, right? So I mean, I would consider them a dark horse. Aging, like aging strikers, but proven guys, that score goals. Like, I mean, it is their job. I was gonna say like it's their job, but they've got a strong generation of midfielders that are coming up that should support these guys and take a little bit of the physical burden away from the older guys. Yeah, I think they're going to be a fun team to watch, and I picked them to move on. I think they'll probably lose to Belgium, but yeah, I like Uruguay as well.
Solid
Yeah.
horses that are dark.
I say, yeah, totally. I feel that. I feel Uruguay is always interesting in that they seem like somewhat of a consistently overperforming country. And again, this year it's like I'd probably see them getting out of the group just because I'm not that impressed by the rest of their group. But they could definitely make some noise. Yeah, I probably think they'd also end up losing to Belgium, but like, yeah. So in my thinking about this, I was kind of thinking like, maybe more surprising teams to make probably like the quarterfinals or maybe the semis. I also put Serbia on there. Again, either Serbia or Switzerland.
I realized they would be playing. Those 3 teams that I discussed as the dark horses would be playing each other if they advance. So that's good. But
yeah, whichever one of those two, and like, I think I would agree with you that I would lean slightly towards Serbia over Switzerland, just because of like their firepower a little bit. I think obviously Switzerland can defend more, which I think more often than not is kind of a recipe for making surprise runs, being able to just defend your butt off and then poke one in on the counter is sort of all you need to win a match. But for advancing out of the group stage, it can be a little bit more, right? Like, I think Switzerland's going to need to do more than just like, draw Serbia and maybe beat Cameroon, because I don't think they're going to beat Brazil. Yeah, so I would lean slightly towards Serbia, but either one of those teams, and obviously, right, we saw Switzerland beat France in the Euros just last year. So they clearly have the potential to, knock off the big boys. I will couch this by saying I don't think they're likely to make it out of their group. But I think Japan is a bit of a dark horse for sure. They've been, it seems like, kind of the best Asian team for the past like couple qualifiers. And right, they played, I guess in the last World Cup, they made it out of their group. They played Belgium, went up 2-0 against Belgium, before eventually going down to lose 3-2. But obviously they have, I think, the talent and I think the like structure. So similarly, what I was saying to like Switzerland, where can you defend is usually a big thing. I think Japan's able to do that. And if you're able to stay in a game, with that ability, that sets you up well. It seems like they added a little bit more like firepower than they have had in previous years. Um, Again, I don't think they're necessarily likely to make it out of their group, given that you have Spain and Germany in there. Um, I'm not super impressed by Spain, I guess. Like, I don't think they're going to be amazing. I think if they underperform in the group stage, it's possible that Japan could knock them out there and make it to the knockout round, um, which I think in and of itself would make them a bit of a dark horse. And if they do, they'd likely get a rematch against Belgium. So if nothing else, that'd be fun to watch. Yeah, so I'd earmark Japan there as well. Given that caveat.
Wow,
I like
well,
that
those are
pick.
yeah, those are great dark horses. But yeah, I was interested to see if you guys mentioned, and you did. You didn't mention the dark horse of all dark horses. I'm excited to get to mention it now. It's none other than Wales. Okay, this is a team that hasn't made the World Cup since 1958. Okay, that's a 64-year drought. That is the longest gap between two appearances in World Cup history. I mean, wow. Let's give the Welsh some love right here. I'm going to couch this because I'm I can't get into the level of detail in terms of analyzing like how they actually play soccer. Haven't seen them play soccer. Haven't seen any of these teams play soccer since the last World Cup. And Wales was in the last World Cup, so I've never seen Wales play soccer in my life because they haven't made it since 1958. But I do think, look, the schedule sets up for them a little bit. In that group, obviously England, their UK brethren, is the big dogs, but they get to play England last. So you figure if they can beat Iran, which I think they would be favored in that game. The very first game, they play the US of A. That's a big game. Obviously, we're here in the US of A, probably pulling for the US of A. But if Wales can get a result in that game, and they can get a result against Iran, that means they don't necessarily have to beat England to get out of that group. You get into that round of 16. Who knows what can happen. You guys mentioning staying in the game with defense. I think Wales is a team that could perhaps do that. Soccer's a weird game. Soccer's a weird game. You can dominate for 90 minutes and lose. You can play terrible and win. I just want to give some love to the UK team that's not England. And yeah, if Wales were to make any kind of run, they'd be a dark horse. I mean, they'd be the ultimate Cinderella. So yeah, going with Wales.
I think that's a really, really good pick. I'm choosing not to say it out loud, because we can't have that happen. But I think every US fan knows how really, really big that first game on Monday is for us. Scary big for the exact reasons you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got Premier League players, championship players all over the pitch for them. So yeah, that's a scary one on Monday.
I say,
Coming
speaking
up
of
that game.
scary, specifically, just even though he's gotten older now, Gareth Bale is like, I mean, probably goes without saying, but very obviously the like key firepower and like star power and heart and soul.
Mhm.
And also like a likable one at that. Like I feel like I've generally had a positive view of him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, I
He'll be
agree
coming
fully.
down from that high of the MLS Cup. I think that he might have the
Heyo.
MLS Cup hangover, We'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah.
And I mean, this might be, I think it is going to be his last dance, at least at the international World Cup level. So, want to go out on top, kind of a la Zinedine Zidane, even though he didn't finish it, but he made the big push there his last year. Hopefully Gareth Bale won't headbutt anyone at the end of the game.
I would put my money on him not doing that. I don't know what the like Las Vegas odds are for that.
What about Luis Suarez biting somebody? I'll bet you there is
I was
a
gonna say there are
line for
probably odds
that.
on that.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think the over under is on that? Like 1.5?
2.5.
No, sorry.
Uh,
Anyway, is there any
Wow.
other dark horse names to throw out there?
I just had the one, the ultimate.
Yeah, I'd say that's it for me.
Okay,
Should we
awesome.
give our big little brother waiting for
As you say, I think the time
that
has come then.
pick for that champion, that top for the next 4 years, the bragging right of the
Well,
world.
so can I bring something else up? The World Cup, like Champions Curse. Do you guys know about that?
No,
Yes.
you educate me.
So there's been 5 World Cups since 2000, and 4 of the 5 winners have not advanced out of their group in the following World Cup.
Hmm.
So France is, you don't want to bet on France. Do you guys want to hear the odds, like the what the lines are for the favorites though before we pick
Yes.
ours?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so Brazil are the favorites, plus 380. So whatever that means. I know the bigger plus number, the better. Followed by Argentina, right? So, and also we should note that if Brazil, makes it to the semis and Argentina makes it to the semis, that would be a matchup that would break the internet. Because they don't like each other at all. So that's something I'm really rooting for, really.
Yeah.
I hope Brazil beats Germany. I hope Argentina beats us to make that into the semifinal. Okay, and then France is at plus 750. So there's that. Spain at plus 850. England at plus 950. And Germany at plus 1150. Okay, so there's those.
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are betting men, but I'm going with England or Germany.
England or Germany. Okay.
Okay.
England is my official pick though. I was gonna place a gob on England or Germany, but for my official prediction, yeah, I'm actually gonna go with England. They're gonna be hungry after the Euro final, right? They were runners up, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost
On
that one to
PKs too,
Italy.
so it's not like
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay, that's all coming back. That
yeah.
was a painful one. Yeah, I mean, if the league is strong, I tend to think the national team is strong. Like that's just kind of how my brain works. And the Premier League is where everybody wants to play right now. Yeah, I think the EPL is the strongest league in the world, both physical and skill wise. Like I said, Harry Kane, their captain, their leader, he just scores goals, man, and he can do so many different things. He's so good with the ball at his feet. Um, they've got countless options like that can all do different types of things in the same positions. They're a very, very deep team. Um, Gareth Southgate, which is like the most English name ever. The only thing about he's the manager, he gets criticized for sort of playing um a less than exciting style of football. But like we were saying, like
Yeah.
that's tournament soccer, tournament soccer, you wanna build on your defense, right? So that's I mean, I don't see that as an issue. I
Served them
think
well
they
the past
really,
couple tournaments too.
yeah, exactly. And like back in the early 2000s, early 2010s, like England players, obviously you want to play for the national team, but it wasn't like it is now. Like Gareth Southgate has really restored that pride and that desire to play for the Three Lions. I think that's a more difficult job than we can all appreciate, like honestly. Um, the only potential weakness I see is center backs, specifically Harry Maguire. He's barely been playing for Manchester United, but he is like Gareth Southgate's guy, and he's just backing him to the nines for some reason. I think that he is a really not a good player. Um, he just has no confidence right now, and I don't know how you could put all that faith in him as your center back. Um, but yeah, I mean, there are just good vibes around the England squad right now. There's a really good mix of youth and experience. Um, and like they just have so many players that can do different types of things. You know, they've got um probably the deepest team in the tournament, in my opinion. So that's my pick.
Yeah.
Boom. Three
Yeah,
Lions.
I feel like the depth of talent is just a huge thing there too. Of like anytime, if they, take Harry Kane out of the game for some reason, you've still got like Raheem Sterling. I feel like was it Jack Grealish is like one of their off the bench guys who the couple of times they like bring him in really can kind of like change the dynamic of a game. Yeah, but it's all anyone they have to pull from seems to be pretty darn skilled.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, I would like to see it. If it's not the US, if it's not Argentina, because I am rooting for Messi, you know. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, and England never wins anything, so I think that's why the odds are like so crazy. But I think that they feel to me like they should be one of the favorites, and they're like fifth or sixth best right now, and that seems like good value. So I'm putting a gob on them.
Nice.
Boom.
I like that. I like that pick.
Sticking the God.
My as I say, quite literally, my like biggest hesitation is that um is completely unfounded and is just like England seems to usually mess something up. So it's
Mm.
like just waiting for that to happen. Um, like that's the reason why I wouldn't pick them, which isn't a logical reason not to.
That is as good a
So
reason as any, John.
yeah,
Seriously.
exactly. Like that's if that's the only reason you have, like I think that tells you how good of a team they are. So
Where's your God on, John?
anyway, I didn't realize they were the betting favorite, but I went with Brazil. Just like looking at them, looking at again, just kind of the skill on the roster, the different like they completely steamrolled all of their qualifying. Um, they similarly seem to have so much depth, and it's a lot of like versatility and creativity. Um, yeah, I don't know. There are a number. So I think maybe I should have mentioned them in like dark horses because I'm not picking them to win. Um, but I actually have them playing Denmark in the semis. Um, I think Denmark has a slightly a very doable like road, honestly. Um, and if they actually finish second in their group, I think might even be better for them um, behind France. But that sets them up pretty well, I think, with a favorable bracket, assuming England wins Group B, to go into the quarters where they play Argentina. But I think Denmark similarly, right, has had a very good qualifying. Um, I think a little more, like you're saying with England, of that like championship tournament style of play, rather than, compared to Brazil's, I think is a little more um, creative, attacking forward, um, but can be, I guess, maybe a little more, I don't know, mercurial occasionally. The problem, I guess, is that they've just looked so good that it doesn't seem like you can quite stop them. Um, anyway, so shout out to Denmark for, I think they're going to be a bit of a dark horse in getting further than they thought, and they could challenge for it. But I think ultimately I'm going with Brazil. The like depth of talent seems to be too much there. Yeah, that's really, I mean, most of what I can say intelligently. I mean, flexibility, I guess, would be the other thing. It seems like they can sort of change their tactics depending on who they're playing, based on sort of some of the reading I was looking at. They, are adaptable in that way, which I think can also be good, right, for dealing with some of the trickier matchups that you're gonna undoubtedly run into in a tournament like this. Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily bet on them, especially now knowing that you're probably not going to get as good of a return. But I'm putting my money. No, I'm putting my pick on Brazil. Sorry.
No, I like that a lot, John. I think we've seen good Brazil teams like in recent history, but I think this one is quite literally built different. Just balance all over the squad. They've got a stronger midfield than they've ever had. With Liverpool's Fabinho, I think he'll play a big role in like the defensive midfield role. Something to keep an eye on though. If Germany advances into the quarters and Brazil advances into the quarters, we'll see Brazil and Germany play again, which all football fans will be thinking of that 7-1.
I was gonna say that would be
that 7-1 game. Yeah,
quite a rematch.
yeah. So that would be a really fun matchup to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. They're a good team this year.
Thank you.
Cool.
I feel legitimized. But again, I guess picking the favorite isn't going out on much of a limb. So
I'm very curious to see what the coach thinks of my pick. Will I be legitimized here? Because I just think, hey, what
US
the
of
heck,
A,
I don't know a whole
baby.
lot. What's up?
I said US of A, baby.
US of A, baby. No, I didn't pick with the US
No?
of A.
Okay.
I think they can.
Sorry.
I think they can make a run, but no, as someone who hasn't watched these teams, not really brushed up my international soccer, I thought, what the heck? Let's just pick one of these teams to see why they can win it. And who doesn't like a fun storyline? And I'll tell you a matchup that's never happened in a World Cup final or semifinal, and that is the Iberian War. It's set up for it this year. You got Portugal and Spain playing each other for the rights to the Iberian Peninsula and the world, at least in terms of football bragging rights. Who doesn't want to see that? And obviously this being what's the name, Ronaldo's last World Cup, seems like reading some headlines, he's going through some Man U issues right now. But those aside, I think it's his time to shine one last time on the world scale. So by the way, okay, Iberian War. I'm picking Portugal. Picking Portugal to win their first World Cup ever. They've never finished better than third place. Back in 1966, they made the third place game and won it. Then they made it in 2006 and lost it to finish fourth in 2006. But apart from those two finishes, they never even been close to winning the World Cup. Seems like Fernando Santos, when he got there, he was like, whoa, he's a magician. He knows how to coach his team and make them win. Seems like that he's kind of lost his luster there, so to speak, recently. Seems like he's taken some criticism for some pretty conservative play and maybe not taking advantage of the offensive talent that he has on that squad. But at the end of the day, it sounds like he has some offensive talent. And like we've been talking about, this common theme, defense can win you championships. You pack it in. That's what Italy did in 2006, the World Cup I watched the most of. That's what the Bishop Walsh boys soccer team did back in my day. I'm not sure if you're still doing that, but it seems to be a kind of winning combination or winning approach. Apart from Ronaldo, it seems like they do have some people who can score the ball if they are given opportunities to do that. Rafael Leao from AC Milan seems to be a star for AC Milan. Maybe this could be his coming out party, 23-year-old And then they do have seems like quite a stud, this Diogo Costa as their keeper. Seems to be one of the best keepers in the world. So why not? Why not? Just get some Iberian Peninsula magic here in Ronaldo's last World Cup, and anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Yeah, Adam, I like that pick too, man. I mean,
Okay.
I don't see why not either. Like they have more than enough good players. Their back four is very good. Half of it is Man City players, which is always good. There's yeah, I mean their midfield is all playing in the top five leagues. Their forwards are all playing in the top five leagues. You've also got João Felix, who plays for Atletico Madrid, another young striker, Andre. So I mean, they have a wealth of talent going forward. Bernardo Silva, another playmaker for Manchester City. I'm sure he'll play in the midfield somewhere. I mean, they've got good players all over the place. Yeah, that could be a good value pick for sure too. Yeah.
Okay,
Just
I'm legitimized.
just contributing the vibes feeling, and not anything logical again. But in the same way where I would say with England, I'm usually expecting, okay, when is this going to go wrong? Um, I feel like more often than not with Portugal, I'm expecting like, how is this continuing to go right? Um, there have been a few of the bigger tournaments they've played in. I'm like not that convinced by them when they're like showing up to the tournament, and
Mm,
then they just keep on advancing, and I'm like, okay, when is this going to go wrong? Or I'm like, this has to like, they can't just keep continuing doing this, and
mhm.
they seem to always outperform my expectations. So from a vibes feel, they're definitely a team that I as well am like, they always seem to do better than I expect.
Yeah,
um
and
so
Euro 2016, I think champions. I mean,
yeah.
they've got good players. And to touch on the vibes again, though, I said there were three Manchester City players. There are also three Manchester United players who, I mean, what Ronaldo did this weekend was I've never seen anything like it. The way he just disrespected absolutely everybody at his club. Um, so so yeah, I mean, he's still got to play with these guys, two of them that are on his national team, and the Portuguese squad will be used to all of the headlines being about him anyway. But uh, yeah, I mean, this one could be different. He's 37. Um, that's the reality. I think he's still, the top two players in the world, but um, it's tough as well for Ronaldo, I think, especially because he hasn't been playing. Like if he's playing week in, week out and he has this fallout with the manager, at least you're match fit. Um, not that physically he wouldn't be match fit, but like, you've got to play yourself into the right mind state. And that only comes from playing, right? So when
Mhm.
he's not doing that, I think he's probably not uh, he's probably losing something. So um yeah, I think they have enough to do it. I think it's all about one man though, whether or not he comes to the plate.
Yeah, it seems like in
Gotcha.
the past, oftentimes he's been criticized in World Cups for not coming to the plate when he's been, the winner of the Beyond Dior and has been, regarded as a super player. He hasn't quite shown up the way people might expect in the World Cup. So it's his last chance,
Oh,
last
in
time to
that
get it done.
Euro final they won a couple of years ago. He wasn't even on the pitch when they scored that goal to win it. So, they can do it without him too, I think. So,
Yeah.
um it's gonna be dependent on like the role he plays though. Yeah. Whether it's big or small and whether he accepts it, you know.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. Quick final question then, for both of you guys. Since none of us picked them as our winner, um, do we think the winner's curse continues as in, is France going to not make it out of the group stage, or maybe let's say like not make it past the round of 16.
I think
Thoughts?
France probably has the easiest group, or one of, I don't know. You think Denmark is like Manchester City though, John?
Heyo.
Um, but I mean, I think that they have two huge omissions, right? N'Golo Kante and Paul Pogba not being in their midfield is I think that will be pretty significant to them. So yeah, why not? I'm gonna root for it. The World Cup curse.
Okay.
I don't have the expertise Coach has here on this, but just looking at who's in their group, like I can't see them not getting past Tunisia, Denmark, and Australia and not making it out of that group stage. But yeah, sure. Once you get to round 16, anything can happen, in a tournament. Sure, maybe lose that game, but I don't see them not getting out of the group stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They also have like a lot of attackers. So it'll be interesting to see how they play off of one another and who plays and who doesn't.
Yeah.
And they also just had another kid go out who had a lot of excitement surrounding him in like the first training session of the tournament. He went down and he's out of it now. Christopher Nkunku.
Dang. Okay.
If that's that's probably not how you say it, but that's how it's spelled. So yeah, I mean, I think round of 16 they could go out because they'll be playing perhaps Mexico. That was my pick who they'll be playing, but um I don't like Mexico that much this year though. But I will certainly be rooting for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say I'll be rooting against them. I have them making the semis. I think I probably have them as my runner up, honestly. They do have what looks to be a pretty easy path. Because yeah, I'm not, convinced it would be either probably Mexico or Poland, more likely Mexico in the round of 16, which I'm not, super amazed by. The quarterfinal could be, I mean, from there it could be more difficult. They do seem really good still. But I'm very much going to root against them. So
Yeah.
I hope the curse continues.
Yeah.
I'm not betting that it will, but we'll see. I just wanted to ask since it came up earlier.
Yeah, and there's always surprises, I'm sure that everything I said today is going to be wrong, but that's why I love it,
Yeah,
That's
well,
why
that's
the game is
fun.
so great. Yeah.
So how about this for a final question? USA. How far does the United States go?
Yeah, I've got them in the quarterfinals in my realistic draft. If we can get past the group, I think we can beat the Netherlands, The Netherlands are a team who, like us, they had a terrible previous World Cup cycle. They didn't qualify for 2018. They have a lot of good center backs, right? But you don't need that many good center backs. You only need two or three. Yeah, I don't know if they have that difference maker going forward. They definitely have good players, but it'll be a different team. And yeah, I think we can beat absolutely anybody. Honestly, I think we have I really, really like our team. It's all about the selection for Greg Berhalter and the US team. That's the only thing that makes me nervous. He already should have selected a better roster, but he did not. He really likes MLS guys. Okay. He's an MLS lifer, basically. The one time Greg Berhalter left the MLS, he got fired after like a few months and he comes back to the MLS and he gets the big job. Doesn't make much sense to me. But Yeah, I think we can do very well. I'm hoping we lose to Argentina in the quarterfinal. I think that's about the best we can hope for right now. But again, tournament football. Who knows? Anything can happen.
Yeah,
Boom.
indeed we do. Indeed we do.
Well, wow. I'm pretty excited to watch this World Cup. International excitement. Here we come from
Yeah.
Qatar, whichever you choose. It'll be with us soon.
Yeah, I'm excited, guys, and we will be watching up with my team. So
Nice.
it'll be good. Yeah.
Very
Super
fun.
cool.
Cool.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Ryan. It's
Oh,
been super fun.
I
And
appreciate you guys. This was fun. This was a lot of fun talking soccer. I like you said, John. I would do it anytime, anywhere. So
Nice. Well, yeah, it's been, our pleasure having you. I enjoyed this a lot. So it's also good to give me a reason. I feel like usually I'll watch the World Cup when it's actually happening. But to like start paying attention before it like officially happens and I like know what I'm prepared for going in and everything, just elevates it that much more. Yeah, so I'm excited.
me too. Me
This will
too.
be good.
All
But
right.
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you boys. See ya.
yeah, super cool. From the mountains of why do I always mess up? The Colorado Rockies to the banks of Missouri. Thanks to our listeners at points in between and not in between. Until next time, he's John and I'm Adam. Stay classy, Frostburg. Stop.